Right, welcome to the Survival Debrief. I'm your host, Stephen Kelly. As you know a bit about me, I've done 23 years in Commando Forces as a SEER instructor, operated all over the world, whether it be different deserts, jungles, Arctics, mountains, and I was fortunate enough to take on Naked Alone Racing to Get Home, an extreme survival challenge in the UK. Then I also took on the America's Naked Afraid not once but twice, and I'm so happy today. I've got an amazing guest. He's an ex-military man himself. He done time in the army, in American Army, and I've got Jonny Yates, and he's the little star. He's like the love child of Naked Afraid. He's the golden boy. Everyone loves him in the minute. How are you, Johnny?
No, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Steve. This is kind of cool.
Oh,
Not
mate,
used to
honestly.
this, but get used to it.
Mate, thank you very much for taking your time out. The reason why I wanted to get you on here, because like I said to you, and when I messaged you, you were a good figure on the show. You were compassionate. You had some good morals as well, and I liked seeing how you were, because you operate like a soldier, and it was quite cool. You're looking after your team member, and that's what it was all about. You're always adapting and overcoming situations. But I want to strip it back. How did that happen? How did you go from being what you're doing now back home to being naked in the Belize jungle?
So that's funny. I'd been out of the military for about 10 years. I did a decade in, like you said, the United States Army, but I'd been out for about a decade. I'm working in corporate America. I have a job as a program manager for finance and treasury for some tech startup, and I've never seen the show. And my life is kind of removed from that outdoor extreme stuff at this point. But I live, I've got land. I'm
Yeah.
outside all the time. I'm very comfortable outside, and enjoy the outdoors still. And I have a friend who Naked and Afraid is her favorite show, and she happens to be wheelchair bound, um, handicapped, and she would bug me for months at a time, like, you need to go on this show. I can't do it. I'd love to have the experience vicariously through you. And it's, to me, that's just dumb. The show sounds stupid to me at this point. I'd never seen it. The hook is that they're naked, and I'm just like, this doesn't sound interesting to me. And I'm sure it's, at this point in my mind, I'm sure it's fake too. I don't know if you had the same kind of assumption. It's just reality TV. I don't have any experience with that. But one evening, my friend ended up getting a little inebriated and made a impassioned plea. I remember she used the phrase, "God cursed my body and yours is healthy." And she gave me this laundry list of reasons why I should apply, and she thinks I'd be successful. And I said, these are all valid points, but I gotta have to say no. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on your podcast,
But
but
you say
she
what you
she
want.
called she called me a pussy.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I'm not a pussy. So I that evening I went on the internet and I searched for how to apply. I applied. Within a couple of days, I had a follow on call with the casting agency, and then within the next couple of weeks, I had a couple of video chat meetings with the Discovery Channel or the franchise. I'm still not really sure who's what.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was a little surprised because these interviews are going really well, and I don't see myself as a survivalist. Still don't, even though I've completed with the Everest of
Mm.
survival challenges. But yeah, they kind of fast tracked me, and I truly believe it's because my partner Mandy had been kind of waiting in the wings for a good fit, a good partner,
Yeah.
and I think the situation of my application is, kind of an empathetic, no ego driven sort of thing. The network was finally like, okay, we got a good match for this. We got a guy who seems to, you know, care more about others than, you know, you know, getting some cool thing under his belt, check a box that makes him feel manly or something. So yeah, it all happened pretty quick, and yeah, I didn't do any preparation at all.
Do you know what? As you know, you've been out there and I've operated in Belize. It's not a nice jungle to operate in, and you've went out there with no preparation and watching it, you absolutely smashed it. You came together as a good team, and we're going to talk a bit more about that in a minute anyway. But
Thanks,
without
brother.
no preparation and the fact that you just turned up to show your friend you weren't a pussy, kudos, happy days. But when you first got out there and you came across your partner Mandy, and obviously she's got no legs, she's went through a traumatic experience
Mm,
where she's been hit by a
terrible.
train. What was going through your head when you first walked into the jungle? Because I remember when I went with my partner, my first partner Sonny, I was panicking, I was nervous. You're scared to look anywhere. The cameras are all on you, just looking into
Right.
each other's eyes. And obviously she's like low down to you. It's just a weird concept of when you're walking in. What was going through your mind?
Honestly, I'm surprised at kind of my lack of a reaction to. I think the whole situation itself was just so foreign to me. Uh, Having a camera follow you while you're butt ass naked, like I'm worried about where I'm stepping. I'm worried about what I'm about to step into. I'm worried about the camera on my butt.
Yeah,
Um, it's just very overwhelming, and I have this idea of what the meetup is going to be. You've seen the show. It's typically two people walk to each other, and say, "Oh, another naked person" or whatever. And I see what I think is my partner just sitting on the ground,
yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh, this is already this isn't what I expected." And as I get closer, I realize that she's an amputee. But really, all that went through my head in that moment was, how did she get here? Because we are in the middle of the jungle.
yeah,
I would trudge a good way to get into that point. And as somebody who's been in the military, I'm no stranger to amputees.
yeah,
It doesn't shock me to see somebody without, with parts of their body not where you expect them to be. And so I just figure, I'm more interested to know how she's getting around in this jungle. And I truly thought, like, what, she's got to be some kind of badass for her to make it through the vetting process and get out here, because it's pretty stringent. I know
yeah,
some wackadoos have made it onto the show, but they really kind of vet you pretty strongly. And so I knew she's got, some kind of incredible tenacity or strength that I'm going to find out in the next 21 days. And sure enough, I was right.
yeah,
Now, a funny thing is, a lot of people online will comment on how, I come up to my partner and I get down to her level, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's a sign that he's, respectful and a good person." It wasn't really about that. I'm glad that's how it was interpreted. But if you think of how where I'm standing and where she is, it would just be very awkward to stand in front of her.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
That's what I originally thought. I'm like, if I was him, I'm gonna take a knee because I don't want my
Yeah.
private part
Yeah.
stuffed in her face.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah. But do you know what,
It's
Johnny? I think it was amazing how you came together. You went down to her level, and moving on from this, she went off into the jungle, and she had a lot of tenacity. The fact that she's an amputee and she was getting around that area, and as you know, in the jungles was full of thorns, insects,
oh,
everything would have been biting her. And the fact that she was pushing through, and you went out there and cracked on. But talking about
it's just
when you went out there into your challenge, I remember on day one it was proper raining, didn't it? What was going through your mind on day one? You wake up day two, everything's sopping wet, you haven't got nothing to light a fire, you can't boil your water, and you've got to go make a gypsy well. What's going through your mind?
well, uh, I'm sure you've had a few of these experiences in
Mm.
your life. One that comes to mind for me very vividly is waking up on day two of basic training. And you're like, what the heck did I just sign myself up for? Like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And that was the same kind of feeling waking up on day two, without a fire. Everything's wet. We didn't have a shelter. It took us a long time to get to our site, uh, for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
And that that insertion hike was just brutal on my partner, and I don't know how she did it. She's tough as nails. Uh, but we just really didn't have enough time to get things going. Um, you would use the word adapt earlier, and what's funny is initially Mandy and I kind of butted heads on our overall plan for what was going to be done because my plan is to not have a plan. Um, my plan is to get there, see what needs to be done, attempt it, probably fail, reiterate, and
Yeah.
just adapt to the situation as it's coming. In the American military, we have this thing called the OODA loop. It's basically just you observe the problem and you orient to it and you develop your plan and then you adjust it. And
Yeah.
it's just a constant you're adapting to the situation around you. And that was just my plan, just to go in there and see like, all right, this is what needs to be done. Let's see if we can find a way to do it. Whereas, Mandy had seen every episode of the show several times. Huge fan of it. He had very kind of structured ideas of what needed to be done, and it, there's there there's no flaw in that, and there's no necessarily flaw in my plan. But I've always thought that plans are great in situations like that, but the second they fall apart, um, that kind of tosses you for
Yeah.
a loop. Step one crumbles. What do you do with step two? What do you do with step three? What do you do with step four? And so, well, I mean, getting in there and it just raining on us day one, everything's sopping wet, every piece of wood just saturated with water. It was tough to get the bare minimum. But to me, since I didn't really plan to have everything
Yeah.
off the bat. I was just like, okay, cool. Like, let's adjust fires. It was I think over the course of the 21 days, my method kind of seeped into Mandy a bit, and her method kind of seeped into me. We fed off of each other's good ideas.
Oh, mate, awesome. But it's funny, like when I think back and look at your first day, it was exactly the same with me and Sonny. Our first day we got there, it was just pissing down with rain all night, and
Yeah.
we were up singing, and it didn't show any of it. We were like screaming, going, "Come on!" And it was full on torrential rain in the jungle, and we had nothing. I built half a bed, which Sonny had, and I just lied on the floor. And at night, I actually got bit in the back by a bullet ant, and it didn't show any of that. And I'm screaming, I felt like something shot me, and I was here
See, I
screaming,
felt I feel like you got bit
singing.
by every single insect that was in that place.
I think everyone just wanted to have a taste of me British white skin, and I think that's what was going on out there. It was
Yeah.
absolutely carnage. But it was funny watching your one back and seeing how horrendous your weather was. And then in the morning, everything is wet. And I remember going back through that scenario, and it just gave me flashbacks watching yours, the season after my season, of me going through the same scenario as you. But moving on from your first day, and you end up getting a gypsy well, you started getting water. Your foraging skills, Johnny. Your foraging skills. What
Well,
happened? What happened with that root there? When you picked it up and thinking, he's saying that's heart of palm. It's
okay.
not even near a palm
Okay.
tree.
It was near a palm tree.
Yeah.
Something came down, a palm came down in a storm that previous night, and there was just shit everywhere on the ground. And I had in my head, oh, what great fortune. I'd only seen Heart of Palm in a jar on a shelf in the grocery store before. I really don't know what I'm looking for, but I have in my mind, this looks like something that would be in the center of a plant. Maybe I cut into it. And I even told the camera, I said, I'm gonna cut into this piece. And if the flesh is like white and like an apple, I I think it's gonna be heart of palm. I have no idea what I'm doing. I bit into that. I didn't, like I said, I did no prep. The only thing I did was I searched on the internet for what plants would kill me if I ate them. That's it.
Yeah.
To me, everything else is like, well, I'll give it a taste. I'll throw it in my body. But to my great shame, I was so confident in what I had. so confident, and I was so wrong.
As your
But
initial bite as well, your initial bite, Johnny, you went, yes. Then a
it
second
tasted
later,
so, it was so fresh. It was cool. It had like a crisp like snap to it like an apple would. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be great. And then the tingles. Then the tingles, and I was like, oh no.
did you swallow much of that? Did you swallow much of it?
I didn't really swallow. I don't think I swallowed any, which was I must have swallowed a little bit. I think I swallowed like the spit that was accumulating in my mouth from chewing on it. I chewed on it a lot. But thankfully I didn't swallow because I looked up the side effects and my body could have been in a real world of hurt.
Oh.
Instead, everything was just isolated up here, which was still not fun.
How
But
long did that? How long did it last you, the effects from it, Johnny? Because obviously,
oh
you know,
brother,
TV's dead quick. It's dead quick. So that would have been for hours, that wouldn't it?
yeah, so I would say the harsh physical. So I one thing, snot drain, just my sinuses just opened up. Everything's flooding out, tears, and then it just felt like there were ants in my mouth biting the inside, and that lasted for probably about 2 hours.
Wow.
I I got used to it, and it was kind of funny, knowing they called a medic, um, and the medic in my situation is escorted by like a jungle guide, a tour, like a jungle guide for the area. That way, because the medic isn't a survivalist
Yeah.
and they're 15 minutes away, they don't want us to call the medic and the medic, get bit by some kind of venomous
Yeah.
snake or something on the way to us. So they're attached to a guide, and when the guide saw what I had eaten, he just started laughing. He knew exactly what it was, and he told me like, "Oh, you're not gonna die, but you're gonna be pretty uncomfortable for a little bit." Um, but what sucked is I said I swallowed a lot of spit. My throat stayed irritated for about 4 days. You ever gotten I guess a crisp stuck in your throat?
Yeah, yeah, and it like scratches it.
Yeah, it was that feeling for like 4 days. It sucked, but that's fine.
And you got through it though, Johnny. You never quit. You got through it. A lot of people in these types of scenarios in jungle environments where they're uncomfortable as it is would have quit at that point, and you cracked on. You pulled your big pants up and cracked on, mate.
It's funny. I was talking with another one of the survivalists on social media recently, and I was saying like, you know, maybe I'm being humble when I say I have no skills. Obviously, I have enough to get by,
Yeah,
and I think just kind of my previous life in the military coupled with my enthusiasm for being outdoors, I have more survival skills than the average person, but it's not something I focus on. But I was telling him like I don't have any skills. What I do have is positivity.
yeah,
Nothing's gonna, I'm a little uncomfortable. Okay, like
yeah,
it's still fun. The whole experience is still fun. I'm still somewhere doing something. I'm somewhere I wouldn't normally be doing something I wouldn't normally be doing. Um, sure, I can take my clothes off and go sit in the woods for 21 days back there, but at the same time, like it having kind of the safety net of knowing there's a medic nearby, of knowing if something happens, they're gonna get me to a hospital. It kind of takes the pressure off. It's still dangerous.
yeah.
It's still difficult. It's still you're dehydrated, malnourished, sleep deprived. You're probably injured, but it's still just such a crazy, wild experience that I couldn't find a way to not be happy to be there. You know what I mean?
I'm so happy you've said that, Johnny, because people ask me, why don't you just go to the jungle yourself? Because I ain't got a safety. How can I afford to
Yeah.
fly out to Colombia from the UK,
Uh,
have a medic behind me, have rangers if need be in Africa? How can I afford all that? I can go out there with a safety net a couple of miles away where I can push myself to my limit. And if I'm about to die, I'll get pulled out. So why
yeah.
wouldn't I take on these opportunities? I can test myself as a full-on survivalist and outdoor enthusiast. I can push myself to the limit. Because in the back of my mind, I've got a safety net. Whereas in real life, I wouldn't have that, and I wouldn't be able to afford it. And that's what's the beauty of
No,
these challenges. I get to go to these amazing places, which are harsh environments. You're still surviving, like you said. You're dehydrating, you're starving, you're getting attacked by animals, you're getting attacked by insects. There's a threat of dying out there. But on the close point of dying, you're gonna get pulled out by a medic, and that's what I like
they'll
about
let you go
it.
all the way to the edge. They'll let you go all the way to the edge.
Yeah. You're the only person who said that. I always say that. I've said exactly the same. Yeah, I could go and sit in the woods naked. I could do that, but why would I when I've got the opportunity to? I've
Sure.
been invited to travel around the world and try these challenges. One in Africa and one in Colombia in the Amazon. Why wouldn't I do it? Why wouldn't I push myself to my limits? So you've had the same mindset as me. I'm happy you said that. 'Cause you're the first person who's ever said that to me. I say that to everyone, and you're the first person who said that. But moving on in the podcast, Johnny. Is there anything what didn't make the telly what you wish the shows? I know we've got to stay within our NDAs, but if there
Yeah.
anything what you've done
I
amazing, you and your partner.
I wish, and I completely understand why they didn't show this. Because it doesn't, they want to tell I had a blast out there. I would say by day 10, uh, I was, involved in leisure activities. I'd climb trees and jump off into the river. I remember putting the GoPro at the bottom of the riverbed and swimming by it naked, blowing kisses. And like I had such a lovely time that it really felt like kind of a vacation. They didn't show, and this is a thing I've heard about most episodes. They kind of downplay the amount of food you get if you're pretty successful because
Yeah,
it's a good story. It's just struggle, 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 and then achieve the impossible. Whereas for us, it was a pretty hard struggle right off the bat, and then we were eating 2 meals a day with a variety of foods. I mean, I've still lost 30 pounds, but that
yeah, yeah,
I attribute that more to being active every second of being awake rather than you eat food in your real life and you go sit on the couch for 2 hours and
yeah,
watch a movie. There was no sitting. There was because it really is what it says on the tin.
yeah,
Um, you don't receive anything. You don't get any help.
yeah,
The only things that you have are things that you've acquired and achieved for yourself. So if I want to eat 2 meals a day, I got to go out there. I got to go get the snails. I got to go get the fish. I got to
yeah.
go get the fruit. Um, it's funny. We actually ended up harvesting a real heart of palm. Um,
Yes.
and when we finally got it, it tasted so good. But I was just cutting down a palm tree with a machete is way too much effort, and it's totally not worth it. But I wanted to see what it actually tasted like, So I had all these little side projects, and I wish that they showed more of kind of the lighthearted side, the fun that we were having,
Yeah,
but I totally understand why they didn't. And I just think I also just like had a better time out there than my partner. Not a better. I had a happier time out there than
yeah.
my partner, and that's not a good look to have on the telly, right? To have my partner struggling and me just out there doing cannonballs into the river.
It's funny,
But
like.
I like, yeah,
Oh,
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, Johnny. I jumped in there. I
Oh,
think we've got like
I
a
was
few
gonna say,
second delay.
while I didn't want to waste the opportunity, the I don't know if I'll ever get called back. I hope I will. I've heard that it's a pretty good chance, but it was a very special experience, and I didn't want to just sit and make it through the 21 and say, you know, I I left something on the table. So I went and explored. I went and, just I tried to maximize the experience while I was there.
Yeah, that's exactly how me and my partner Sonny done our first challenge. We were jumping in the water. She was climbing up trees. We were foraging daily, eating spiders, crickets. You didn't see any of that. Getting loads of berries, different types of fruits in Colombia, and it didn't show any of that. To just show that we struggled till we caught the iguana. But we were catching little tiny
That
minnows
was cool.
every day. We were catching fish every day. But we grafted daily. I don't know if you watched that episode, but we built a jungle bed,
Yeah.
tables, chairs. I made shoes. We made baskets. I made rain catchers, and we done everything daily to keep going. But like I said, in Colombia, we were constantly having food. But when I went to Africa, there was me and Wes
Oh,
Harper. There was nothing, and but
yeah. That looked
what I wish
terrible.
there was literally nothing. We were eating dung beetles, and what I wish to show though on that. What I wish I sang every day into Wes's ear. And honestly, I'd make him smile every day, and I'd have a full-on sing to him, and we'd sit in front of the water, and I'd always keep cheerful. And I pushed myself to the max on that when we got all the roofing, and I went sitting around, and I told Wes Harper, I said, I'm not sitting around, I'm going to push myself till I'm about to collapse. I want to see what I can do. And it doesn't really do it justice where our shelter was in that little half building. The other house where I was getting the roof from, and I see it on Twitter and Reddit. Why didn't he stay in the other house? It was 2 mile away from the water. That's why Wes
Yeah.
and Miranda only came once with me. I went about 20 times. I'd walk there, back there, back there.
Jeez.
So where do you think all the roofing came from? And the cameraman would be like, that, you going again? I'm like, yeah, I'm going again. And it only
I
showed
gotta
me
get it.
walk once. It showed me walk once. Like, yeah, I've done that every day. A couple of times a day sometimes. Getting stuff, getting wire, getting materials, grabbing load, getting netting. I was always bits of rope. I was getting bits of rope. I was finding lizards. It didn't show any of that, but they've got to make a story, haven't they? And it's
Yeah.
probably boring watching some Scouser, some lad from Liverpool who no one can understand, walking up and down, talking to the cameraman,
I love
giving me
it. And they
subtitles.
put subtitles underneath you. That's so stupid.
But it is another question what I normally have, Johnny, what I've been asking everyone. So you alluded to it before. If you get a phone call today, would you go again tomorrow?
Yeah. If they said, "Can you be on a plane in 2 hours?" I'd be like, "Which airport?"
Yes, I like it. I
I'll
like
figure out the rest of the details later. It truly was a singular experience. I've done a lot of weird, fun stuff in my life, but the I'll say the best part that I don't know if people talk about is the disconnection from the trappings of this life that we currently live in modern society. You lose your device. You can't check your device. You can't check your email. You can't keep yourself constantly updated 24 hours on what's going on in the world. It's just you living.
Yeah,
And there's something that feels like primal and innate. It's like, oh, this is how we're meant to live like this. We aren't meant to be hunched over staring at screens for 12 hours a day. We aren't meant to have 6,000 friends on social media. Like
yeah,
our
yeah,
our capacity for social connections. I think I've Sunny knows more about this. She's
yeah.
done the research, but it's caps out at like 100. And then from that period on, like the quality of connections that you have deteriorates. And we all just I think that it just felt right. It felt healthy. It felt good. I was glad to be back in a warm bed with a
Yeah.
pizza when it was over, but getting a temporary glimpse into that is just so rewarding and fulfilling, and it feels like you're reaching across time and like shaking your hands with your ancestors who lived like that their whole lives.
I loved your thought on what you said there because I'm like that. I like the fact that there's no phones, no emails, no one calling me from work. And when I finished the apocalypse, it was too short. I wanted 100 days. It's 35 days was too short for me. And I was saying it to Wes Harper. There's no stress. All I've got to do is boil water, collect
It's
firewood,
simple.
make sure I don't get eaten by a lion, try and catch a few fish, eat some dung beetles, and you just tick over. And I love that with no connection, no one calling me. Because
You know,
and obviously I was still saving at the time. I've only just retired, I was still serving the military when I came back, straight back into the grind. And I'm in a high-paced unit, in a commando unit. There's only 200 odd blokes serving in my unit. It's a small, tight-knit unit. And we're non-stop traveling all over the world. And coming back into that, it was like a break for me being on this challenge. And that's what I like about it. And people think it's crazy. It was like a break getting away from life. But closing up on this, because I don't have long left on, I always try and keep it short, 25 to
Sure.
30 minutes. Now, another question I want to ask people, Johnny, is if you had someone wanting to go into the outdoors now, want to get off the sofa, they're not really experienced, what's the number one top tip you can give someone?
I would say just be mentally prepared to be uncomfortable. Because it's funny. I've since seen the. I said I'd never seen the show before I went on. I've since seen most episodes,
Yeah.
and it's always interesting to me that I'll say most of the people that have been on the show have more survival skills than me, but some of them, when the rubber hits the road and the stress and being uncomfortable hits them, then they tap out. But it's just, to me, and maybe I say this because that's my personal strength, but I think the whole thing is, it's 90. People say it's 70% mental. I think it's 90% or more mental. It's have the train yourself, train your
Yeah.
mind,
I
be
think,
be
Johnny, you
be
speak the same as
prepared.
me. You speak massive. Have you been watching too many of my videos? Because I say this is all in your head. You could have all the skills in the world, but if you're not mentally up there, you'll crumble like a wet paper bag. You've got to be willing to suffer. You've got to embrace the suffer, embrace the suck. Cheerful, what we say in the commandos, cheerfulness in the face of adversity. When I've been on these challenges, I'm always laughing. You can ask my partners, you can ask Sonny, you can ask Wes, Miranda, Kel. When we all teamed up together in a cage, I'll always turn everything into a joke. Even when I'm suffering, I'll be crying inside, but I'll project a joke out of it, and I'll try and turn it into in a positive joke
Yeah.
and lift people's spirits. And like you said, I think it's more than 90%. You could have all the skills in the world, and we've seen people on these challenges who have got top-notch skills, amazing skills, who quit because whether they miss the family at home, they don't like the uncomfortability of being rained on, or the winds, the cold, and people quit like that overnight. But I think you hit the nail on the head there, Johnny, because I always say the same as well, 90% plus up there. But I'm quite sad now because I'm having a good little chat with you, and we're closing up now, but I've only got 4 minutes left on my Zoom call. And I just want to say to you, if people want to follow your journey and see what you're up to next week, can people follow you?
Oh, geez, bad timing. I've
Yeah.
I've just been banned from Instagram and Facebook. I don't know if that'll come back, but right now I'm on TikTok, and I think my handle is the Johnny Yates, Jonny. Don't throw an H in there.
Oh, look at that,
But
Johnny.
yeah, so I'm trying this TikTok thing. I'm new to it, but it seems to be it's fun. So I really am. I just record things I do around the house. So if you want to see what mid-Missouri looks like, that'll be a good peek into my world.
Oh, look at that. We'll go and check out Johnny on TikTok. Go and see him over there, Johnny Yates, the Johnny Yates. But I want to say, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in to the Survival Debrief. Johnny, the sweetheart from Naked and Afraid, thank you very much for giving up your time to come and speak to me. And hopefully you could understand me all right. But like I always say on these podcasts, make sure everyone likes, comments, and subscribes to the channel. Johnny, honestly, much appreciated, mate, for your time.
This is fun, brother. I appreciate you.
Right.